guys, William over here, and we are again working on the Stimson Bug. First 2 episodes I removed the cylinder head and flushed the system. Today I'm going to continue to flush the system, hopefully try and clean out a lot of these channels at the top of the block, and then do a wet test on the cylinder head. I've never done a wet test before. The advice has come from a guy from Facebook called Paul, who's really into his Stimson cars as a whole. He's got 4 of them, I believe. He's told me a great way to test the valves. So we're going to get on with that, leave that to soak, and then we're going to try and clean out these bores. Hopefully we'll get the water pump fitted up today, and then get the head and the block ready for the head gasket to be fitted, the new bolts to be fitted, and then the head to be bolted down, and away we go. So that's the idea, that's the plan at least anyway. Let's get stuck in. Okay, so here we go. Now with the cylinder head, with the exhaust and inlet ports facing upwards, I'm going to take some water, because water's a lot thinner than oil. And I'm going to pour it down into these ports. Use a funnel, make it a little bit easier. Now the idea here is when the water goes in down here, if there is a poor seal around the valves, the water will leak out. Okay, perfect. So the level of the water is pretty much to the top of all of these, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up onto the bench if I can find some space for it, because I haven't quite finished the garage setup yet. Leave it for overnight really, and hopefully we'll see no sign of any wetness around these valves. Now what I am going to do is I am going to lap all these valves in anyway to get a better seat, but hopefully we can see if there's any loss of compression throughout these valves. So that's that part of the job done. Okay, so it's not massively advisable to sand the block and the cylinder head. However, I have now got access to a compressor, so I'm going to sand it lightly using the wet and dry method. So the sandpaper is nice and wet, so it should hopefully pick up a lot of the cracks. And I'm going to lightly sand the cylinder block. The idea here is to get a nice smooth finish, clean off all the gunk, clean off all the rust, and then go to a finer sandpaper just to try and smooth it off a little bit. I'll test with a straight edge across the front, from side to side and diagonally, to make sure that the cylinder block, or the blocks are flat. And then I'm going to do the same with the cylinder head once that valve test is complete. And hopefully we can get a straight flat block and straight and flat cylinder head, put the head gasket on, and we can start running.
Everything about you.
So I won't fire up the compressor just yet because I imagine it'll be quite noisy, but I just need to blow out the stud holes, and then I'll get my straight edge, but I'll do the straight edge now, sorry, and test the block. Okay, using the straight edge here, I think it's safe to say that the block is completely flat across the way. So I've tried it in various different positions, going front to back, side to side, diagonally, the other diagonally, and yeah, we're in for a good result. The cylinder head, or the cylinder block, is flat. So I'm going to go over it again with a finer sandpaper and hopefully give it a nice shine. Okay, so the next job on the list is to clean out the water channels. Now I'm going to be using a Dremel on the slowest setting with a sandpaper element on the end of it. The idea is to put it in there, lightly sand around the edge, and then move on to the next one. I'm not going to be applying any pressure. It's just going to be a light sand, move on, light sand, move on, light sand, move on. There's still a bit of built up corrosion and crud on there, so if I can remove that, the water will be able to flow much smoother and give the car better cooling. Clean and tidy. Now, I'm not overly sure the best way to do this because I want to try and flush the system back out again before I put the water pump on. So I may push the car back out the garage now, flush it through once more, and then come to fit it all up. I may leave this video here for now and do some other jobs. Don't know what's best. I'm gonna think about that. Okay, so while I've been thinking about the direction my life and this car should be going in, I've just come to check on the cylinder head. So the water is still in the bores, and this piston here is dry, or the valves are dry. These valves are dry. These valves here, there is wet on top of this valve, and then these valves here, if you can see that, zoom in a bit for you. You see the damp on the bottom of this valve? Oh, where are we going? There's my hand and my finger. So there's wet here. That is a leaking valve. So we've got two leaky valves. Zoom out. Oh god. So we've got two leaky valves, which looks to be cylinders 1 and 2. It doesn't quite explain why the compression was down on 2 and 3, but what it does explain is the fact that the valve seats aren't great. So hopefully with the new lapped-in valves, or the valves re-lapped into the head, that's going to improve that compression no end. Bit of a shame, but it's actually quite good so we can see where the fault maybe lies and how we can improve it. So I'm going to keep it in this position for a little while longer, and hopefully we get a full test result when we get back. It does look to be a little bit damp in this end bore as well, so yeah, a great little test using some water rather than oil, because water is thinner than oil. What I will have to do on this cylinder head is the same what I've done with the block, and just clean out these water jackets and clean out. I can clean out the pushrod gearing or the pushrod holes much easier there, because then I can just flush it through before fitting it to the head, the block. So then I can just flush it through before fitting it to the block. Okay, so I've looked on and pondered on what the next job's going to be. I'm going to hold fire getting the compressor out to blow through the pipes. I'm going to hold fire getting the car outside and hosing through the system to flush it through again. What I am going to do is a job that needs to be done that I can do without waking up the neighbours. I'm going to remove the old exhaust because I've got a new downpipe to go on, and then we have to source a exhaust at a later date. But the old downpipe, which is the original style from basically front all the way through to the rear, is well, pretty battered to be honest. So I'll undo that from underneath, take it off from the way back, and drop it down, take it out. I believe that because this is a much shorter Mini than your standard Mini, that when we come to fit the exhaust, a bit of fabrication will be needed to get this exhaust to fit. Let's do that. Okay, so in part 2, where I did the engine block flush, I also put some degreaser down into the bores. So this is the piston that I have cleaned up, cylinder number 1. As you can see, it is much cleaner than it used to be. There is a bit of damage to the centre of the piston just here and here, which is possibly where a valve has maybe hit. That could explain the reasons why that valve is maybe leaking slightly. So when they're out, I'll check the straightness. Another question I asked is about the movement of the pistons. Now the movement of the piston, as I said that in video 1, is actually, I found the answer out now, for those that are interested, it's because you need to have the piston slightly smaller than the bore to allow for expansion. When the piston gets hot, it expands, goes up and down. If it's a tight fit and it expands, the chances of it getting seized and blocked in the engine are quite high. So I've cleaned up this piston. The next piston to clean up is going to be number 4. So the engine degreaser is still slightly on there. I'm going to clean that up and hopefully all 4 pistons will look like this one. Okay, so I've flushed the system now. It's now 7:10. So I am going to wrap it up here really. I'm just going to put a little bit of rag around my screwdriver, dip it down into here to try and clean some of these water bores out, the oil bores out as well. Hopefully remove a lot of the grime from here. The bolt holes need to obviously get done. I have just fired the compressor up, but it's a little bit noisy for this time in the morning. So when I get home later, I can then blow all these out properly. But yeah, we are looking good. The cylinder head is still draining. There's a few more wet patches there I can see now. The block is pretty much prepped ready for the head gasket and the bolts to be fitted. The water pump area is also prepped. There is no crud that I can see down in this groove anymore where the water pump sits. And yeah, we are looking fine and dandy. So one last clean up and then I'll go indoors, get showered, ready to go play golf. So yeah, that's it for now. Whew. Okay guys, that's it for me now for this video. This is episode 3 of the Mini Bug restoration or repair. I hope you've enjoyed these videos. If you have, please click the thumbs up, please comment below any sort of comments you have, and also if you can, please click subscribe to the channel. It's completely free, and you don't get to miss out on any future content I've got coming up. A massive thank you to Mini Sport for supplying all the parts. This website said that some parts are out of stock, next day delivery, and I got receipt, and I received every single part on my order. So massive thank you there. I'm going to leave it here, but hopefully you're enjoying the content so far, and we'll hopefully be back onto this later on today, maybe this evening, to clean it up, blow all the holes out, drain the oil out, put a magnet all down here just to make sure there's no more swarf or anything inside the block. The cylinder head hopefully will have enough time to drain the valves through, or hopefully hold that water inside the valves. And yeah, bolts in, cylinder head gasket on, water pump on, coolant hose on, and then start stripping the head down. So thank you for watching again. I'll see you next time. Bye.